The final countdown and the final shot some of these teams have to keep their season alive. Today, we started with 85 competitors still in the run for an FNCS championship. After today, it narrows down to just 50 on the region of EU. Some players, Takata, are left where they have to win with a certain number of eliminations to get into that top 15.
And this is one of the duos, Jacob, Rad3on and Vidil, currently in 17th place outside of the qualifying threshold. They have 56 points. The estimate is around 96 points. They need to have a good game here.
Yeah, at least 40 points. If they go down before top 25, just to put that in perspective, that's 10 eliminations, 4 points per. Obviously, less eliminations at each and every one of those placements that you're able to gather. Hedja and Kerwa tripping in for Doxy, a fight that we saw start off in that last game. Even though for Doxy won, he wasn't a true winner because he was in shambles from there on out until when he fortunately had went down. They have 12 points right now. They need at least an 84-point game here today.
A big game. A big game is what they need, but it's all going to start with this off-spawn engagement. They need these eliminations to set themselves up for the mid game and continue strong towards the late game, and that knock is a great start. One more shot needed to connect for Doxy and Trip now. 2 quick eliminations. That's already 8 more points.
That's a much better start now that Tripper is still up. They're both in the game. That strength in numbers is huge because we did see Predage actually make it decently far as a solo. Unfortunately, he was having to go after player, stop reboot vans until he was fortunately caught off guard. I see a lot of activity here early on in this game. Even Noah and Aqua winning a good fight against our #1 game winners of the day, but Sanghill just separated outside by himself.
Oh, no.
He gets dropped. Luckily for him, Marius is still alive, and he's separated from this fight to try to get a chance at Sanghill's reboot card.
This is not good for Marius and Sanghill, though. They're in 24th place with 46 points. They got 4th place in the grand finals of Major 1. They're one of the only 2 duos that have made both of the previous major finals, and they have yet to qualify. Sanghill, having been eliminated, now leaves Marius alone. He has to wait this out and see if he can pick up the reboot card later on.
Yeah, just 50 points is all he needs in this game. Around 50 points, it is just an estimate. Obviously, if a lot of the players underneath that bubble start to play well, then we can kind of see that gap start to extend. But until then, at least they have a goal to go after.
There's so many big duos that have yet to make it. Marius, Sanghill, Aqua, Noah, Rad3on, Vidil. All these players are outside of the threshold. And this is literally the last chance they have.
Looking around the lobby, you see the forecast tower there in the distance. It's the one, I believe, north of Restored Reels. So another little bit of a change up here. I think that's might be one of the least spawned forecast towers too, so for somebody here in this game, they're going to get an opportunity with the forecast tower, which obviously with the forecast tower, you always see the next zone ahead of time so you could plan accordingly. And even though it's what, like 3 minutes between when one zone starts to close and the other one is ready, that's a lot of time in Fortnite.
Yeah, I think it only has a 20% spawn rate, so you're not going to be getting it every game for sure. As we have another engagement here, Reckless Railways, the triple contested POI currently of this lower bracket.
Only 4 points so far. It's one of those teams, they need a certain amount of eliminations with a win. So it's not going to be the easiest thing, but it could start here. Once you need those eliminations, being contested might not be so bad if you have a clear-cut win condition, but the fight breaks on without him. Wheat is just too far separated. Lusha can't break the walls in time to close the distance. So his teammate's going to go down, and he's forced to disengage, play a little bit of this game out as a solo before he tries to return back on over to Reckless and get the card.
That's rough. He doesn't even have the reboot card. There's 2 duos there still in Reckless, so who knows when he'll get an opportunity to pick it up. Then he's going to have to find a reboot van that's further away, because you know those duos aren't going to move from there. He can almost hope that the zone closes on the opposite side of the map from Reckless, so then it's going to force his opponents to kind of rotate away and give him that chance to pick up his teammate. But for Hellfire and QB, luckily enough, both players are still standing, even connecting some shots here to do that damage for Storm Surge.
And already they got basically almost the pick of the litter when it comes to the cactuses around that side of the map as Fastroki finally gets finished off, taken down. And since it wasn't a knock, it was a full elimination. We know him and Roban are out of this game completely. 33rd place, too.
I'm trying to see here. Yeah, Kentic is going to try and group up with Finn. Reason still up above, trying to just take shots, do a bit of damage, Vidil in a different angle. I think they might even get aggressive here, Jacob.
Let's say they can. They do have the high ground. They crash pad their way on over. We can see how fast Roki, once you're getting charged through the nitro, yeah, you can build to protect yourself, but you don't expect somebody coming. You're not really going to waste what little builds you have. They chase him down all the way to the reboot.
Love to see how that ended up. As right now, looks like a 1 versus 1. First shot's going to connect the 2-piece. Twee goes down. And even with a bit of time to pick up his duo partner now, 3 eliminations to start this off. That's huge.
Yeah. That's how you got to start to get things going one way or another in these games, even if it's like slowly, step by step. That's how you learn to walk, just 1 foot in front of the other. Because if you don't get that certain amount of eliminations, it doesn't matter if you win the game or not. You're not going to be able to make up that point gap. Monet and Lunex, one of the teams that we saw late in that last game, at least make a challenge for that high ground. Unfortunately, they really weren't able to take advantage of it after the fact. And they find themselves already in a tough spot here, just outside of Classy Courts, where Clement and Buzz have switched up their drop spot a little bit. But they still find themselves in almost the same situation, stuck with a fight down below, a lot of space between them and the high ground, where you have to make the decision. Do you kind of prolong and stagger yourself, waste a lot of time, or just kind of disengage and continue on?
Not even in zone. I mean, a majority of the north side of the map isn't contested either. It's a lot of duos that have a free drop spot, so it's not like you're going to find a lot of potential for third parties early on. But now in this mid-game section, it's going to be those duos looking to get that damage, as if they're not contested up north, then they're going to have to find their damage during their rotation. Noah and Aqua. Aqua being a 2-time FNCS champion, having only made 1 FNCS final since the start of Chapter 4. I'm hoping to see him break that curse and make another one yet again today, but what it's going to take, Jacob, is a really big match.
Yeah, 84 points total, 65 for the win, which means you got to sprinkle at least 5 eliminations in there on top of that. And if you don't get the win, that's just more and more eliminations you do got to pick up with each and every placing outside of that first place as Foco and Cringe. We saw them switch up their drop spot back on over to Lavish Layer. It's netted them some decent results in that last game, but with only 1 game left, they're already breaking down in a big fight. But luckily for them, that team's just going to try to disengage on out. But they have to be careful. They actually didn't run all the way away. They're just all the way at the bottom, giving them maybe a chop opportunity.
Uh-oh. What has gone wrong with Trip and for Doxy, though? Astillion now seems to have secured a knock, but will they continue forwards with it?
There's another situation. It feels like them getting cash off guard. And maybe even biting off more than they could chew for Amos and Stiando. That's a good amount of loot. They have the 3 med kits, the colas, full nitro splashes, almost max mats as well. They have so much loot, they have the choice of what to leave behind.
2 picks close by. Kovacs up above. But I don't think with any danger of kind of playing aggressive towards these duos southern or below them. You can see what Reason and Vidil have done all the way from Brutal now. Gonna use one of the nitro rings to kind of propel themselves into the zone.
Far past the nitro drone. They're not just trying to box up on a cactus. They're more concerned about positioning here, because they know with the zone pulling farther and farther north, that opportunity that we keep talking about when the south zone comes, the damage threshold's higher. In theory, it shouldn't be as high in this game now that it's going north. It's pulling towards the west. Less and less cactuses are going to be in play. So if they set themselves up with a good spot here very, very early on, with all those teams forced to rotate in from the east, from the south, they might not necessarily need the cactus strat this game.
If you're confused about what that cactus strat is, huge rotate. There are these cactuses that are mainly in the southern side of the map that You can kind of pickaxe and they'll give you a bit of shield. And they do regenerate infinitely. So you have players make these kind of surge bases on top of them where they can take shots. And even if they receive damage, they can just go hit the cactus, recuperate that shield, and continue doing damage. But that's caused the Storm Surge threshold to be so high when the zone pulls south that it's quite difficult for players who haven't really made use of those cactuses. But now seeing that the zone's going to pull north, in theory, the threshold shouldn't be as high, but being a semifinals match, it's going to be high either way. Giraz and Chari, though, accustomed to doing more than enough damage already with 2 eliminations.
Wow. And that was a great decision, Garrus. Before we went up for that spot he was just out, he just put the thermal scope onto his gun. I don't know what he had in there instead. Was it a 4X? Was it maybe just a red dot? But you can obviously see some of these teams and players, individuals, favoring certain attachments over others. Gives them a much better line of sight. Even though it's not as far, it's just the thermal possibility. You can see a couple players through builds and whatnot.
I'm looking more at the zone, though, Jacob. This is a location that has a lot of cactuses that's still in zone, so we might have spoken a bit too soon.
Just on the edge. I think there's about maybe like 8 cactuses.
Hey, that makes a difference. That makes a difference. XV's Floki have been playing these early games very well. Always at least securing an elimination or a bit of damage. We can see they have 52 points, so they aren't too far from that estimated cutoff of top 15, which is the last 15 spots to the grand finals. But they still need to get to the end game and have a decent match.
Yeah, and they're kind of taking the strategy, running with it here. Even though they were contesting even down low, that kind of split drop towards the outside, sometimes they would land up here, get these chests, launch pad off, and then kind of start the fight with a weapon. From there on out, you can kind of see the forecast tower, part of their game plan. And hopefully with back-to-back forecast towers, they'll be able to earn just enough points to get inside of that top 15 threshold. For them, it's much easier than others, just about 40 points. With some eliminations, they don't need to place very, very high in this game.
I think I just felt the tear from Mini Miner as I saw on the feed. You could see CZB and Nathan here in kind of like a turtle war. It's because on the feed, they just eliminated Cringe and Volko, who was in 16th place going into this match. So most likely going to be knocked out of the potential grand finals. CZB and Nathan, though, also need to have a decent match here. Well, not too much. I mean, they need to get to late game, and hopefully that should be enough.
What makes this even more tough is I'm looking, thinking about all the players taking a spot on the leaderboard. Everybody at this point in time, hopefully I don't curse anybody, inside of the top 15 is still alive. So it's not enough for these players below that threshold to have good games, some more than others, but they need those players to go down, because if they go point for point, they're still not going to be able to get into that threshold. So even though Cringe, Volko, you said something about them going down, that's 16. That's not going to move the needle at all.
Imagine the top 15 duos just don't go down. Every single one makes late game. We have the highest cutoff we've ever seen for a lower bracket. It would make the competition incredibly high for these players. Hellfire QB playing edge of zone here, trying to get as many opportunities as possible on these players who have rotated ahead of them. Issue is, you have kind of the chance of getting focused here. If some duos decide to just start taking shots at them, they're going to be the only duo in the area, and it's going to cause all the other players to take shots. That crack is detrimental, as now the players know he's potentially low, but luckily enough, the environmental cover should be able to save them.
I was like, QB can't go down there, though. QB cannot go down there. It's almost like a bunker situation where if you go down into that hole, there is no way out. There is no exit. Yeah, you can replenish some shields. You see Hellfire slowly but surely, one tick at a time, getting it back. But if anybody pushes over in this direction and QB actually does go down there, they're stuck. They're stuck. Yeah, they can zip line up, but you know how hard that is to survive.
We'll hope that nobody kind of takes that path to hold them, as I assume the zone's going to keep pulling further away from them. You can see zone's already almost covering Rift Island. There's Monier and Lunex. They're looking quite relaxed, to be fair. 52 points, locked in, focused on the end game. I would say maybe a top 5, top 6 would be enough for them, or even just a lot of eliminations, but they want to take the safer route.
Now I can safely say no more cactuses are in the lobby. There was a couple that you were talking about. I went and actually counted them. It was about maybe 4 to 6 cactuses that were still in the zone, but now nothing is going to be here, but it's a flying Monier from above. Him and Lunex trying to close the distance. They have a good position here. They have him trapped against the mountain, but they don't want to continue to fight this far out of zone. They're one of the early teams to rotate, so the longer they stay in this position, more and more teams will either third party or overtake them and try to gatekeep them out altogether.
Yeah, from how they've been playing, you can tell that they kind of just want to do as much damage as possible and set themselves up for the late game. Noah and Aqua almost falling off of the surge base. I don't think it was Noah's plan to land on top of a player, but just to get a bit of damage done. They have done enough to be above, but that can change quite quickly as 7th and 8th zone are the ones that are most difficult to withstand.
So 423. Unless you're consistently doing damage throughout it all, you know that's going to change in the next couple of zones. That's why it's very, very important. Be proactive. Don't slow down on this tempo. You got to figure out a way to control it overall. Buzz goes down. You see another team charging in the distance, and that's exactly the opportunity both Aqua and Noah were looking for. It wasn't a ton of damage, but as long as they're continuously progressing up that Storm Surge leaderboard, they're going to be A-okay.
Ooh, this is all or nothing for Aqua and Noah. They need a victory royale here. They need to take home the whole match to make it. As you can see, there's so many players that have actually ended up rotating in late, and it's been free pickings. But Noah wants to get a bit aggressive here, already with 800 damage above, but he's not done cooking. He wants to pick up that medallion, the extra loot, and he's done it.
Yep. You remember the situation they're in. They need a couple of eliminations sprinkled on top of that win. They started with 12 points. Or I should say, I think 4 points or so, and they just kind of been lighting things up ever since. They find another elimination. They're using the crash pad, all their focus, and while other teams are down on Surge having to find it, they're just trying to go right back on over to the Surge base, reset their situation here because they don't want to continue to get caught in the chaos. Storm Surge is active, and you know as well as I do, no matter how far above that threshold you are, somebody else in the lobby isn't, and you can be susceptible to a push at any moment.
This is looking huge, though. Look, almost full materials. The zone has pulled dead center onto Aqua and Noah. They have vision on all the players. They have damage. They have everything they need to close it out. As we take a look at Cringe and Volko on how they were able to make a comeback in this match. They're back in the game.
Good little reset here. Very good on materials. Their loadout's looking good. The only worry they really have right now is that Storm Surge, but luckily for them, they're going to be 89 above that threshold for now, which we know can change in the blink of an eye. So by getting the information, figuring out where these players are at, where they're going to rotate to, so that way you can try to pop shots just like that. Reason and Vidil, they go through unscathed, but CZB and Nathan are there as well.
Both players having already fought earlier on in this match. But it looks like the fights aren't done as Volko's been cracked. The pressure's on him now. Nitro into his box, gets knocked. Cringe is left alone. No shield to work with either. And just like that, in the blink of an eye, both players have gone down.
I mean, CZB and Nathan again. That was a team I said to watch out for. They shot some shots over. They snatched away the points for that elimination. Even though they're not going to be able to get the loot, they just move one step closer up that leaderboard. Reason and Vidil spot out one. See a couple downs in the distance. Vidil is just trying to do what he can to push over, pick up the points and the pace along with it. They have a gap to cover, and hopefully as a solo, he can make it happen.
A long way to go. The journey begins now for Vidil. Can he make it happen? 56 points. Needs to get at least 30 more, 40 to make it safe. It's going to be a tough run, Jacob.
I believe. Everybody here has to start believing. Kurama and Werex, 4 points. They can start believing just a little bit as well. They have 3 eliminations, so in reality, it's a little bit more than 4 points so far. Placement points have yet to set in, though. Still 2 more teams need to go down before those start to come to fruition.
Zone has pulled back towards Grim Gate. A potential moving zone in the water of sticks. As a reminder, this green water you see all over the map. If you dip your toes in it, you get these dashes that you can use to propel yourself forward. So the rotations for a lot of these duos will allow them to conserve materials, but almost every duo is going to make use of it, so you got to be aware of that.
And I like what they're immediately doing. Instead of just looking for players peeking through the cones, they're just trying to target anybody else that might be under siege. And there goes another opportunity there, and they quickly close the distance. They know how easy it's going to be if they get a flank like this, and Hellfire is going to go down 120 above. They're still trying to backtrack, create space for themselves, but the job is done. They got more than enough surge in which they were looking for.
A bit more materials could be useful, but so far, so good. Meanwhile, we have players on the opposite side of zone here. It's going to be Aqua and Noah who are the most elevated. They have vision of the surroundings, but Emil is not looking as healthy. 29 above, has lost his duo partner. 3 medkits, 3 bigs. Should be good enough to stay up a bit longer, but damage is what you really have to be looking for here.
Yeah, and he's just in a spot right now where nerves got to be maxed out. He just needs a few more points, 2 elims, a couple more placement points now that they begin to set in. And he'll got his spot in the grand finals, but he's by himself, barely above that damage threshold. And when it comes to materials, that count is low. Uh-oh.
Not above. The rotate is now going to come through. You can see making use of those dashes that you get from landing in the water. Took the risk to land in it once again and recuperate those dashes. Was it worth it, though? It was not, as Storm Surge is going to finish them.
Hey, they're inside of the bubble for now. They are inside of that bubble. But we know that score is going to change so much. With a couple of those teams inside of the 15 down and out, opportunities are beginning to open up here as placement points are going to start to click in with every duo that does go down, as Noah and Aqua yet again find the elimination. And honestly, I think they've achieved their elimination threshold that they need. All they have to do is win the game, and they will be in your grand finals. But it's not as easy as it sounds, let me tell you.
You know the pressure is on, but they are locked in. They have what it takes. They have the experience, the damage, everything they need to close this match out. But they can't afford a single mistake, Jacob. All they have to do is finish with the victory royale as Vidil is continuing to move forwards.
Just needs to be able to get a few more placement points, maybe even closer to the top 10 with teams going down. 98 above that damage threshold. You have medkits, you have cola, so out healing this because the number of players needing to go down is so small in this end game where eliminations happen very, very quickly. He at least has that option in his back pocket. A trick underneath his sleeve, but as you see, he's just staying, peeking through this cone. The information is vital. Where and when he rotates is going to be so impactful.
If Zone has pulled back, yes it has. Zone has pulled back towards Noah and Aqua. This is going to conserve so many materials and also allow them to not be in as much of a risk of getting overthrown in these initial moving zones. All they have to do is hit their shots on the players rotating in and make sure that the lobby knows that they are up above and they are healthy, and that is exactly what they're doing perfectly.
It's not really giving anybody a chance to look up. Storm Surge not even a worry as another beam goes out. It's like a Thunderburst laser in his hands right now, making sure anybody that travels through the skies got to think twice about that one. As the 2 gentlemen down below, they give an easy connection for them to try to hold the high ground, but that's also a big threat for somebody that's going to contest it.
Still on height, continuing to tarp on forwards. They know what's on the line, just like Vidil does. Only 7 above now, though. The danger increases as Vidil has to be cautious here. It's a full duo down below him, but all he needs is a little shot to maintain his time in the zone.
I believe right now he's going to look like a magician because he has to make some magic happen, even if he's barely above that damage threshold. I'll talk about the heals in his inventory before, and he still has every one of those heals here now, but the zone pulls far. He has to watch out where these players are at. Damage isn't necessarily needed with only a few players needing to go down. It's all about the rotation and how safe you can make it for yourself.
80 builds still left for Vidil. He has so much loot. He has so much ammunition and heals. Everything he needs. All that's left is a little bit more damage. Not a single duo has looked above yet at Noah and Aqua. They are maintaining their dominance. As a reminder, they need to win this match to qualify.
It's like a Cinderella story for so many players here in this lobby trying to continue their dreams of becoming an FNCS champion. Monet, Lunex, they seemed so close in that last game as Noah and Aqua, they kind of waterfall themselves down, but they make sure to stay in the prime position so that way they can have high ground, pressure the lobby, but they got to watch out. Gira is Chari, they're making a claim for it themselves. Both players actually get drained down to just little HP, but Chari is there. He's looking healthy. Aqua's trying to lend that helping hand, but how long can these players keep up as Noah gets beamed yet again?
It's all up to Aqua. He's the duo that has more HP and shield. He has to take out Cherry here. It's the only option, and it's exactly what he's going to do. Gets the elimination, gets the refresh, and once again looking to claim height.
Chari's there as well. He challenged it yet again. Even more damage done, but they will not be denied that high ground. Challenge it. Send anybody up. We'll take them down, and we'll even fall down to try to cause some destruction as well. He doesn't have builds to go back up. Down goes Noah. Aqua's by himself. The pressure of the game is on the line. Even with 8 eliminations, going down here is not enough, and he gets another elimination onto CZB. Them and Nathan are out.
Could this be enough? Makes it into zone with just 1 HP. The medkit is popped. 2 builds left. Aqua needs to make history.
This is a big opportunity. I talked about the last play being the play of the game. This one could be it as everything comes crashing down. High ground slowly but surely dropping down. They don't have any materials to hold on to this. They're going to run out sooner or later, so they want to thin out the low ground before they drop down. As Aqua drops, he doesn't complete history, but there's still so many players that can.
It's Mystic, 64 points. He needs to get to 96. He needs to finish this one off strong. Good news is his duo's up. Bad news is it's another duo on low, and you have to pick an option to go up or down.
Few solos left in the game, and add one more to that total as Maxi's now left by himself. I don't think there's anybody that can challenge us. Vidil's still scrounging around down below. He's trying to make it happen, but he's a solo. There's so much danger all around him. Fanayan's going to be the one to take him out. It was actually back-to-back eliminations before him and Della fall down to a 2v1, and the gentlemen get taken down. Predage and Rad3on go ahead and take the win.
What a way to close it out. Pred and Rad3on finishing it by taking height when they needed it most. And I don't know if you saw it, Jacob, but Vidil was up 4th place, clutching it out as a solo throughout the whole late game, getting into that match just on the borderline of qualifying. The later board has shooken up. Was the victory royale enough for Rad3on and his duo partner? Was the solo clutch from Vidil enough to put himself in the grand finals? I have so many questions, but we just don't know the answers to them yet, Jacob.
Even with 5 eliminations, make it 6. They took down the gentlemen in anything but gentlemanly fashion. Congratulations to them, but there's still so many questions. Takata, you're asking them, I'm asking them. Who made it into that top 15? We only have a couple players or people that can tell us, but that's going to do it from me and Takata as we throw it on over to Analyst Desk to let us know who is going to the grand finals.